Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are on page 3 in these white booklets, Lechun Ranana.
Lechun Ranana Adonai Nario Letzu Yishenu Nikadema Falametoda Bizmirot Narialo Kiel Gadol Alonai Umelech Gadol Al Kol Elohim Asher Beyado Mechkerei Aretz V'tofot Arim Lo Asher Lo Hayam Ve'hu Asau Ve'avesh Et Yadav Yatzaru Bo Nishtachave Benichea Nivrecha Lifnei Adonai Oseinu Kieu Eloheinu V'anachnu Amarito V'tzon Yado Hayom nin b'kolo tishma'u אל תקשו לבבכם כי מריבה כיום מסע במדבר אשר ניסוני אבותיכם בכל רגע ופועלי 40 שנה אקוד בדור ואומר עם טוען לבבם והם לא ידעו דרכי אשר נשבעתי באפי אם יבואו אל מנוחתי שירו לאדוני שיר חדש שירו לאדוני כל הארץ שירו
Shabbat Shalom. Have we noticed how much earlier Shabbat has come in over the past 2 weeks? It's like we're quietly dealing with the middle of our afternoon and then all of a sudden, boom, it's Shabbat. And I don't know about you, but it feels like I'm being pushed into Shabbat in a way that I don't completely love, I have to say. I find for myself I need a little more time just to ease in. And yet here we are. And as we go into the winter, it's only going to get earlier and earlier and earlier. So what do we do? What do we do? One thing to offer, one way of doing it, is that the tradition says that we should change our pace on Shabbat. There's this concept called Pesia Gasa, yes, a crude step, which roughly translates as running around. We don't run on Shabbat. We consciously change our rhythm. We consciously slow ourselves down. And I want to offer that slowing down as a way into Shabbat this evening, as a way of antidoting that kind of feeling of being propelled into it before we're ready. We have a few internal rhythms that we can concentrate on. We can become aware of our breath. Yes. We can become aware of our heartbeat. And if our breath and our heartbeat aren't doing it for us, then we have 2 heartbeats right over there that we can follow. The tradition in a drum circle is that there's always a mother drum. There's always another beat. So that whether it's our own breath this evening, or whether it's our own heartbeat, or whether it's the heartbeat that the drums are bringing for us, let's consciously slow ourselves down as we ease into this week's Shabbat. We're on page 5.
Adonai malach tagel haaretz yismechu ijim rabim anan v'arafel sevivav tzedek u'mishpat mechon kiso esh lefanav telech utlaet saviv sharav ha'iru v'rakav tevel Shama Vatisma Tzion Vatagela Benot Yehuda Lemar Mishpatecha Mishpatecha Shama Vatisma Tzion Vatagela Benot Yehuda Lemar Mishpatecha Mishpatecha shelev simcha simchut tzadikim Adonai ve'odu lezecher kodsho.
Page 6.
Mizmor shiru l'Adonai shir chadash ki nivliot asa Hoshia lo emino zra kodsho Dior lo yeshuato Leine goyim gilat tzidkato. Niram hayam umelo tevel veyosh vevav ne'aron yimchacha yachad harim yeraleinu lifnei Adonai kivav lishvat lishpat haaretz yishpat tevel ve'tzedek ve'amim ve'meisharim yiram
We are on page 7. We'll come together 3 lines from the bottom in the bold.
And I want to invite folks, welcome everyone, Shabbat Shalom. There's a lot of room up here, so if people want to just come, you can even come sit on the floor. I don't know if anyone will take me up on that, but please feel free to come close, and there are also some chairs over here on the side that are still available, so if you want to get a little closer in. And I know that, that's right, thank you. I know that the words of the Siddur, the words of our prayer book, are very well known to some of you and completely foreign and new for others. And so I just want to invite you into this space of song, of silence, of reflection, of community, of connection. We have the transliteration of the text on the bottom, so if the Hebrew is hard for you, go for the transliteration or don't say any words at all and just jump in with some nine-anais, the classic Jewish, answer to everything. Nine-anai. But this space is for our souls. We need this soul food tonight. So we're going to turn to page 7 for Psalm 99.
Adonai malach yirgezu amim yoshev keruvim tanu tarech Adonai b'tzion gadol v'remu al kol ha'amim yodu shimcha gadol gadol. Weißt
tithes in whatever way you're able. We're at the top of page 8.
מזמור לדוד, נבו לאדוני, בנעימים, אבו לאדוני,
Shabbat Shalom. I was thinking about how Rabbi Panitz always starts his Kavanot by talking about the really wise and cute thing he's talking to his 4-year-old about. So I was reading Soloveitchik with Sammy the other day, my 16-year-old, my 17-year-old, and this line emerged from the text that just kind of stopped me in my tracks. He said, the wiser and more sensitive one is, the greater the crisis. The wiser and more sensitive we are, the greater the crisis. So in the Torah portion that we read this week in Parshat Toldot, Yitzchak is in crisis. He is full of fear because he's afraid that he's going to die. And he actually says in chapter 27, I'm getting old and I think I might die soon, so quickly, let's deal with this blessing situation, he says to his son. It's followed by the meal that's made for him and this great act of deception that one of his sons engages against him, and then the most wrenching line of the entire Torah when the other son comes forward and says, What, there's no blessing left for me? And you have to wonder why there is no blessing left for the other son, and why it is that our ancestor Yitzchak at this time, Isaac, lived in such a narrow world, a world of so few possibilities. And I think it's because he was so afraid, because he was a sensitive soul and he was a wise soul. And so the crisis was great for him. And I think the crisis is great for a lot of us. And when the crisis feels so big, it's hard to lead from our most expansive selves, right? Like we lead from our narrowest selves. And I was talking to a very, very dear colleague and friend, Rabbi Tamar Lad Applebaum, this week in Israel. She lives in Jerusalem. And she said, the problem of our time is that people want quick medicine when they're in crisis. They want to feel better right away. And if you can't fix the bigger problem, at least you can make yourself feel better by making certain kinds of choices. But those choices often are driven by fear. And they only lead us to see the world through very narrow lenses. And so I just want to invite us in this space, on this Shabbat, to move away from the quick medicine toward the slow medicine. The medicine of breath and song and silence, as we said before. The medicine of community and connection and food, right? The medicine of actually engaging one another's humanity, letting someone else see ours. Because something needs to shift in our culture right now to move us away from the narrow, fear-driven mindset that made our ancestor Yitzchak look at one of his children and say, I'm sorry, there's just nothing left for you. I've cast my lot on the other side. And I know the danger, and we know the danger of falling into that fear-based trap and going for the quick medicine that ultimately ends up hurting people we love and hurting ourselves. So that's what we're doing here tonight. We're moving away from quick answers. We wise and sensitive souls that we are trying to be honest about the crisis that we're in so that maybe collectively we can find a more expansive answer that will actually serve love and serve justice in a more honest and more universal way. So listen deeply and sing deeply and love deeply on this Shabbat, because there are so many blessings that abound if we only give ourselves the chance to fully embrace them. We're going to turn to L'Chadodi, which is on page 9. I'm again going to make the unpopular offer that if people want to, you can feel free to come join us right here, standing or sitting, right in the middle of this room. And I'm also going to invite you, if you feel like standing at any point, please rise in whatever way you feel moved, even before the traditional final stanza, in which we'll all rise at the end of L'Chadodi. Page 9.
לקראת You can have a seat if you'd like. We will continue on page 11 in the white booklets, or on page 27 if you are in the red siddur.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מה
Psalm 93, page 12 or page 29.
אדוני מלאך גאות לבש לבש אדוני עוזי תזר נפתי קונתי בלבלתי מו עדותיך נמנו מיום לביך
Turn now to Mourner's Kaddish, to Kaddish Yatom, and I saw Emily and Yitzchak come in earlier. I don't see where you're seated now. And we just reach out to you with love and the hope that you find comfort and consolation. Emily's mother, Joy Pacer Aiton, was recently buried, and may her memory always be a blessing to you. And I want to invite anybody else who's mourning the death of a loved one or who's observing a yard site, the anniversary of the death of a loved one, to please rise with me, and we'll join together in Mourner's Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom, which is on page 13 in your booklet.
Page 30 in the Siddur.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalmad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei zechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevorach v'olam omei omayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Dukudsha Brichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael
V'imru.
v'imru
Amen.
Amen. Zichronam livracha. May all of our loved ones' memories always be a blessing. Before we turn to the second part of our service, to Mariv, the evening service, I just want to I want to ask us to take a moment, part of the slow medicine, the response to the fast medicine of our time, which leads us down the bad path, is to actually just take a minute and take in the people who are around us in this room tonight. And I know that many people don't know anyone in this room, or certainly nobody knows everybody here. So I'm just going to invite you to take a moment and turn to somebody who's near you who you don't know. If you're seated around lots of people you know, that's great. Try to find somebody near you who you don't know, and just introduce yourself with this question: who are you and what brings you here? Who are you and what brings you here? please rise. Baruch Hu on page 14.
Or page 39 if you're in the Siddur.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai
You can be seated if you like. We will continue coming together for the Shema on page 15.
El Chai v'Kaya Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'amariv Hanabim Na'avat Olam et Yisrael. Ve'yavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai Lo'elam Yisrael. Shema. Adonai Elohechem emet, emet ve'emunah, kol zot ekayam aleinu.
We're continuing on page 17. We'll come back together for Mi Chamocha on page 18 or page 44 in the Red Siddur.
Adonai Yireinu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom V'yamidenu malkeinu lechaim V'osei Gatzemecha.
Hashkivenu is a prayer for peace that we say on the top of page 19.
Ki el shomreinu matzilenu ata Ki el melechenu barachnu ata Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom na'aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'al Yerushalayim.
Please rise in whatever way you're able. The Shamru, page 19 or page 46.
Ve'shamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם לברית עולם ויהי בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים והארץ וביום השביעי שבת יתגדל ויתקדש שם ברבך ועמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי וחייכם ויומכם לחיי כל בית ישראל ועלה ובזמן קרב ויאמרו אמן ושמי אדם לעולם 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 יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר יתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתקלל ויתהלל שמי קודש הבריחו לילה מכל ירחתה ושירתם קדוש וחתה ונחמתה דמיין ביומה ויאמרו אמן ויאמרו 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 אמן איי איי איי
We will take a few moments for silent prayer. The words of the Amidah, if you'd like to follow along with them, begin on page 21 or on page 47. Feel free to just use the words of your heart.
Past life couldn't ever hold me down. Lost love is sweeter when it's finally found. And I've got the strangest feeling. This isn't our first time around. Past life couldn't ever come between us. Sometime the dreamers finally wake up. Don't wake me, I'm not dreaming.
26 or page 54.
נתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה יעלם דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי וחייכון יום אחד וחיי בכל בית ישראל בהגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ויומי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתברך ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה נעלמים כל ברכתה שירתה תשבחתה ונרתה אמין אמין לחיים עודנו ועל כל ישראל אמרו אמן אמן עושה שלום ונאמר עושה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל
Page 27 or 56, Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהן, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים, מודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. הגדול בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Just take a moment before we go to Kaddish Yatom one more time. I shared with our community that after October 7th, it came to our attention that my beloved friend Schiffer Bronsnick had a very close and tragic event happening in her life, which is her oldest and dearest friend, Vivian Silver, 74 years old, a warrior for peace, had been, it appeared at the time, abducted by Hamas from Kibbutz Be'eri, where she lived. A person who built Women Wage Peace, who built a whole life around the possibility of what the next chapter could look like. And as many of you know, we found out just this past week that she had not been abducted, but actually had been murdered on October 7th in her home. It took a very long time to identify her remains. And I'm going to say a little bit more tomorrow about Vivian. But for tonight, I just want to share a story that her son Yonatan shared about her, which is Yonatan, who lived in Jerusalem in growing frustration with the political situation in Israel, at some point said to his mother, like, I feel so scared that it's just over, it's just done. And Vivian said to her son, don't say that, Yonatan, you have no idea what will happen tomorrow. And so I just want to invite us, it's our tradition here, and every Jewish community does this differently, Seems like in the Orthodox and Reformed communities, usually everyone stands for Kaddish, but in the conservative communities, sometimes the mourners stand and everyone else sits. And I really love the tradition, both as a mourner now myself and also as somebody who likes to see who's mourning, when we differentiate ourselves in this moment so we can care for one another. But I would love to invite everyone to please rise for this Kaddish in memory of the beloved Vivian Silver, who inspired Jews and Palestinians and Bedouin, Muslims, Christians, people from all over the world to believe that tomorrow could be better than today. And I know that some people are now looking to Vivian's death and saying that the dream of peace has died. But I have found in the course of the last few days that exactly the opposite is the case. That the fact of Vivian's life and her persistent belief in something better is reigniting a movement in Israel and in Canada, where she's from, and here in the US, and maybe around the world. And maybe through this reignited passion for a better way, we'll be able to plant the seeds for a different kind of future. So in memory of Vivian Silver and all of those who have lost their lives, I really pray that we collectively can build a different kind of future. We'll turn to Mourner's Kaddish on page 29.
58.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael v'agalah v'zman karim v'emru amen Yehei shemei Rabbah v'vorach le'olam omei umayat Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekusha b'richu. Le'ila mikol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amirat ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba mishemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. We're going to close our service in just a moment. You can have a seat for a minute if you'd like. Just a couple of quick announcements for us before we go to dinner. I want to thank Roseanne Keenan, who's here. I saw you earlier. Where are you, Roseanne? Thank you to Roseanne. For in memory of Roseanne's mother's 10th yard site. Roseanne helped to sponsor our meal today, and we're very grateful to you. And what a special meal this will be. I am absolutely thrilled to introduce to you Michael Twitty, who is here tonight as our scholar in residence, our guest speaker. I mentioned that this tefillah, this prayer space, is our soul nourishment tonight, our soul food. And this is Michael Twitty's most recent book called Kosher Soul. And so we're excited to talk about the book and talk about your work and to have a beautiful dinner which our beloved Marina and Del Cielo prepared. Some of the recipes that you'll be eating tonight come straight from Michael Twitty, and so we're very excited about this experience. And even if you didn't RSVP, you are absolutely welcome to join us on the condition that you RSVP next time so that we can make sure that we have enough food for you. And I will give Michael a more formal introduction when we turn to the second part of our evening together after you've had a little bit of food and we turn to the speaking. But right now, I just want to say that we have been trying to make this happen now for at least 5 years because Michael Twitty is well known around the country as an extraordinary educator, Jewish and Black educator, speaking to us about food, about history, about family, about identity. And we have been wanting to bring this conversation to the center stage here. So we're very honored that we can do it tonight. And thank you for making the schlep so that we could do this together. I also want to mention that our program tonight is being co-sponsored by JQ. And so I thank you to our JQ folks who are here. And Melody Razi, are you here somewhere, Melody? Hi, welcome, and thank you. Melody is a volunteer with JQ. We've got so much JQ IKAR overlap, in our community, and so it's really wonderful to be able to do this together. JQ is the premier LGBTQ plus Jewish organization in Los Angeles that celebrates the lives of LGBTQ plus Jews and their allies by transforming Jewish communities and ensuring inclusion through community building and educational programs and support and wellness services. And we're just really so thankful that we live in a place and in a time where we can really offer this kind of care and love and support to our LGBTQ plus community. And there's so much more work that needs to be done to really build a world that is fair and just and welcoming and loving for our LGBTQ plus family. And so thank you for the holy work that you do every day. Okay, I have been told that I am to announce just a couple of the foods that you're going to be eating tonight, so that you know, because we're not going to be talking until afterwards, but these are based on Michael's recipes from Kosher Soul. There's going to be a green bean salad with lemon and sweet bell pepper. Green beans are significant in both African American and Jewish foodways, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. There's a peach kugel, which is a staple of Michael's for Shabbat and for Yom Kippur breakfast. And he also makes a rice version of the kugel, and in addition, the addition of the peaches is part of the southern roots. And so just pay attention to the intersectionality in your dinner tonight, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And with that, I do want to announce just one more thing, which is we have a number of upcoming events to pay attention to. One of them is in memory of our beloved Hannah Mintz. We are holding our annual Thanksgiving Tikkun. This is an opportunity on Sunday for our whole community to come together to pack up family feasts for members of our LA Voice community, people who we're in relationship with who need a little bit of support in order to experience the fullness of the Thanksgiving holiday. We're going to be doing a little bit of learning together and celebrating and packing up these foods, which we'll then be delivering downtown. And that same night, we are also co-sponsoring a screening of the documentary Holy Closet, which we're co-sponsoring with Temple Beth Am and with others in the community. This film was made by Sandy Dubowski and Rabbi Steve Greenberg, and it's so beautiful. I got to preview it, pre-screen it, and it's really a celebration of courage and resilience and the interplay between LGBTQ plus identity and religious commitment. And our very own dear and beloved Rabbi Dr. Candice Levy will be a participant on the panel. So it is a really beautiful night of celebration, and I hope many of you will be able to be there with us. Just keep eyes out in your emails for all the rest of the announcements, because I don't want to take any more of our time tonight, but we're going to get to our dinner. So I'm going to invite everyone to please rise in whatever way you're able. Elohim, oh, it's you. It's you. She's so good at it. I'm not taking it away from you.
Eloheinu, Velohei Avotenu, Vimotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, we stand here again, still brokenhearted. Thank you for this chance to be brokenhearted together, for a quieter, slower moment to see each other, for these Shabbats that start so early but always end up being a blessing, for this chance to slow down, for this chance to re-engage with the wisdom of slow medicine, to be in a space together where our only job is to be exactly who and where we are. Thank you for the wisdom of our tradition, for the ancient technology of Shabbat. Thank you for the reminder that the wiser and more sensitive that you are, the greater the crisis. And thank you for the invitation of that into a more expansive way of seeing the world, an invitation not into fear, but into love. Thank you for the reminder that even from our most brokenhearted place, unlike our forefathers before us, we can remember that there are enough blessings for everyone. Or for you are the source of life, and in your light we too are bathed in light. Shabbat shalom.
Amen.
Shalom aleichem malchei sharet, malchei elyonim, melech malchei amelachim, kadosh baruch hu. Shalom aleichem malchei sharet, malchei elyonim, melech malchei amelachim, kadosh baruch hu. Shalom aleichem malchei sharet, malchei
Hi, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful meal. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. So what I'm going to invite us to do, there were plates of dessert that were brought to each of your tables. If you didn't get one, please let us know. We're going to invite maybe 2 people from each table to bus your whole table. This will be extremely helpful because if 300 people get up at the same time, it'll be a little bit of a traffic jam. So if you don't mind, if we can bus the table, that way our team can start to do the dishes while we're speaking, which will make it an earlier night for everyone.
Hello.
Is that okay? All right, good. Are we good? Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Okay, we're going to move into our learning tonight and our conversation. So if you're having trouble seeing from where you are, I invite you to make your way a little bit closer because we're going to be seated. Are you more comfortable standing when you're talking? I'm good. Okay. So I hope folks will be able to see us, and there are a few seats up in the front, so if you want to come close, please feel free. I start with immense gratitude to our staff and to our catering team. Thank you for this beautiful meal. I hope everyone is well fed tonight. And there are dessert plates around, so please feel free to keep eating and drinking a little bit as we speak, but we wanted to start to transition. So, what a joy. Okay, I mentioned a little bit about Michael's background earlier when we were in services still, but I'm going to do a little bit more of the formal background by way of introduction here. So Michael W. Twitty is an African-American Jewish writer, culinary historian, and educator extraordinaire. He is the author of The Cooking Gene, which several of you I know have, because people kept taking pictures of their books and sending them to me this week in their excitement for you coming, which actually won the James Beard Foundation Book Award for Book of the Year, which is amazing. It was also... And writing. Okay, and writing. And it's also won all kinds of awards, the Kirkus Prize in Nonfiction, the Art of Eating Prize, and a Barnes & Noble New Discoveries finalist in nonfiction. It's really incredible. That is phenomenal. So Mazel Tov. Twitty was born in Washington, D.C. in 1977 to parents William Lee Twitty and Patricia Anita Townsend. He is of Mende Akan, an Irish descent. And Irish descent, and many others. His Irish ancestors were enslavers. Twitty wrote an article for The Guardian explaining how he discovered his Irish ancestry through a combination of genetic testing and historical records. Twitty, which we talked a little bit about at our dinner table tonight, because we were lucky enough to have Michael at our table. Twitty's great-great-grandfather, Elijah Mitchell, was on a nearby street when Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant at the Appomattox Courthouse, ending the American Civil War. Amazing. And Twitty first became interested in traditional cooking as a child when he went on a trip to Colonial Williamsburg. He majored in African American Studies and anthropology at Howard University, but then did not finish there due to financial constraints. and went on a birthright trip to Israel in the year 2004. Okay, there's so much more that we're gonna learn about Michael tonight, but I wanted to give just this brief bio so that you have a little bit of context, and we're gonna talk about some of the really incredible work that that Michael has done. Really, actually groundbreaking work. I want to start by just saying, Michael, first of all, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for joining us tonight. You write and speak like nobody else about food and social justice, about food and identity, about food and the past, present, and future. And I am so curious, wonder if you can share with us a little bit of a framework for your thinking and how it's evolved over the course of your career. Why is food so central to the discourse on all of these really critical areas of our thinking and engagement?
It was through Jewish learning that I discovered that food could be a medium of a way, a vehicle to talk about culture, identity, social justice, etc. I will say that all that led to Kosher Soul. It was amazing to be at the National Jewish Book Awards and to have myself and Shoshana, who is a Ugandan rabbinical student, the first time 2 African-descendant Jews won the National Jewish Book Award. Amazing. Side by side. I'm not a chef. That flattens me. I don't go in a kitchen every day. If I did, I'd be a hero because, chefs work, like teachers, they work really hard. And they go in and out of the kitchen, and hospitality, but they're also an artist, but they're also a leader. They're also, being a chef is basically like being it's military work. It's designed after the military, the whole way that the kitchen is organized, right? That's not really me. I come from a long line of home cooks. We talked about DNA. I'm also part Ukrainian Jewish. And people go, how? And I'm just like, America. I mean, we shouldn't be confused about this anymore. At all. And the further back your roots go in America, it's like, in the cartoons back in the old days, when someone had something magnetic, they picked up all the metal. Yeah. It's exactly what it's like. I grew up in the DC area, back and forth across the border. I now live in Virginia, in Fredericksburg, where dreams go to die. My poor beleaguered synagogue there is like hanging up. I mean, it's the beginning of Confederate Virginia. You're not allowed to forget anywhere you turn what happened there and who really suffered. Even though Fredericksburg is basically the belt buckle between DC and Richmond. So you kind of have to go, if you're driving up or down, you kind of have to stop and pee there and get more gas. I mean, that should be the town motto, you pee here. And George Washington was not born very far from where I live. But even deeper than that, until 2020, in the middle of the town, where the marketplace was in the colonial period, was one of the last remaining auction blocks for enslaved people. Not only that, but I live 30 minutes drive from Partlow, Virginia, which is where Kunta Kinte was enslaved. So, between that and the big Confederate flags and all other nonsense, I guess I kind of willed myself through the secret. My husband is from there, to a place. Everybody always thought I lived in Dogpatch. I was like, no, I'm actually I'm a product of the Great Migration. But everybody was like, you live in such and such North Carolina, don't you? I said, no, I don't. I knew there was no future there. I mean, I don't live in the most horrible place. I mean, I still live in an area connected to 2 big metropolitan areas, and it is basically the suburban sprawl, right, of the DMV. But I don't think I could put my roots out, especially as a Jew. I lived in Montgomery County for most of my life. Right? Those of you know Moko, there's like, people don't even understand. There are like, 40, 50 organized Jewish communities within the DC area. You could, I used to teach Hebrew school for 15 years, for which, Rabbi, I hope you are upon the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. So I deserve a Nobel Peace Prize for teaching 7th grade Hebrew school for 15 years. Orthodox, conservative, reform, reconstructionist, and renewal. I taught them all. Every white hair in my head. And, teaching was a big formative part of my Jewish identity as well, because it gave me a lot of insight. When you teach in all those different movements, what did Yitzhak Greenberg say? I don't care what movement you belong to, as long as you're ashamed of it. And so I really feel that, but I also feel like I learned something from every movement. From the Sephardic world, my home synagogue is Magen David. I learned a lot about, the word tradition doesn't begin, survival tradition, and just almost a mystical approach to Judaism. And from the other parts of the Orthodox world, I learned about community. You're never alone. That's the blessing and the curse. From Chabad, my folks at Chabad, I learned a lot about joy. And also the need to have certain basic benchmarks. The conservative movement taught me how to integrate America and Judaism at the same point in time, but also to really focus on community reform taught me all about social justice and outreach. Reconstructionists taught me how to make Judaism less about religion and more about spirituality, and so did renewal. And so I've learned from all of the different rabbis and teachers and lay people who I was privileged, like we talked about before. Everyone wants to know, so how come you're Jewish? I would rather talk to you about the majority of my life that I've spent as a practicing Jew. I have married people, I have buried people. I have helped people get divorced. I've helped people welcome their daughters and sons into the world. I have taught over 1,000 children and brought half of them to the Bema. That's, I'm there at, Jewish social services at the nursing home, talking to our elders, and I know what it's like to be, youth adjacent. My 20s, my favorite thing was to go to University of Mount for Simchas Torah, and I remember with great joy, every Simchas Torah, the feeling I would get, bumbling home. Everybody would be miserable on the train, the metro. And I'd have this glow from Simchas Torah. Because, at University of Maryland, you had Hillel and you had Chabad. And then about 11 o'clock at night, they'd join forces. And everybody would dance all the way up the hill down to Chabad. And it was several hundred people. And then what the coolest part was, nobody knew what to do with this group of loud Jewish people, except for all the black folks. Black folks saw us and said, what y'all doing? We're dancing, it's a holiday. Y'all got food too? I'm in. And by the time we got to Chabad, I went from being one of 5 black people to one of 50. And it was great. That's part of my existence. Growing up in the, near Kent Mill, which is now, it's hard to describe. It's like an urban, suburban shtetl. And you don't hear about it because it's not in New York or Jersey, but it's like that. It's like that. And so I taught on one end of the county, I taught the PhDs. On the other end, I taught the professionals. Temple Shalom, the PhDs. Everybody worked for NIH or was assigned as a professor. Very liberal. Beth Ami, 60% blue, 40% red, all doctors, lawyers. And it's one county. Magen David and Beth Sholem, Sephardi and modern Orthodox, and they now have a Maharat. Unheard of.
A Maharat is in the modern Orthodox space, essentially the ordination for women as clergy. They're not called, the movement doesn't call them rabbis or even, or rabbanit, or rabbah, but maharat is the word.
So that's the diversity I grew up in. And I wanted to start a conversation there because I don't like being seen as exotic at all. My kids, my students help me through that process. It's funny how I remember the phrase, we are the Jewish people, Judaism is not our totality. Mm-hmm. It's very important. Judaism is a religious civilization. It's not the totality of who we are. So that makes room for a lot of people and their existence. I used to walk around, Washington, D.C. I rode the metro in years. But I remember when I did, this woman said to me one time, she says, "Are you Jewish?" And I said, "Yes." And she looked, I could tell she was part us. Just like there's Gaydar, and there's Jewish geography. Black people, we know when your great-great-great-grandma was black. That's why we didn't let Paula Abdul or Mariah Carey get away with it. And now we got Carly Simon and Steven Tyler. I have to tangent, I have to. So, all these genealogy programs, and they had Steven Tyler on, and Steven Tyler got some And so I was just like, come on, bring it on. Come to find out, one of his oldest ancestors in America was a black musician from Louisiana who fought in the War of 1812. And everybody was on Twitter like, I knew it. we saw you, Steven Tyler. Joint over there next to the rock. See, you came for a thrill, I came to give it. That is it. So the woman sitting there, she's like, yeah. She's like, my grandmother was Jewish. I said, please tell me more. So her grandmother was Ashkenazi, and she married a Pakistani man who their daughter married a black man. And I said to her, you realize you're Jewish? She said, I didn't realize. I said, it doesn't have anything to do with what you pray. Halakhically, you're Jewish. And I said, do you have children? She says, yes. I have a son who is 12. And I gave her my information. Do you know that woman had her son bar mitzvah? And it's because I was fearless in wearing my tzitzis. My mother used to make fun of me. My mother was like, you'll never get on a plane again. And it was half joke, half truth. Because, I was chubbier with a tan. The chocolate chosen. 2,000%. And so I really took that seriously. And that's, I know that's something. But, queer people have an interesting way of representing ourselves. In the book, I talk about how I was in Crown Heights for Shabbaton. And I was with the old dudes in 770. I refused to go to the students' minyan. I was like, this is beneath me. I know no. So I had an amazing time. I was at 770. It was a little strange. The kids were super curious. But all of those Hasidic communities have black people in them. Every single one. Even Satmar, even Breslov, every single one of them has a small minority of black families. And so I was looking for Rabbi Francis, who has since passed. He passed 2 years ago. And people thought he was a ger. Turns out he had a longer yichus than anybody in Crown Heights. He and his wife, both black, both Jewish, both Caribbean roots, could show you how their ancestors came from Spain, Portugal, Trinidad and Tobago, black and Jewish for generations, 500 years.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there, and there's this young man comes up. And there's a lot of Bachurim in the community, young yeshiva boys, and a lot of people who come to, especially movements like, Breslov and Chabad, because they open their arms to people with addiction issues, people who have who want to be Baal Shiva, people who lost their way at some point in my life. So he comes up and he's got like cholent juice on his beard. And I'm just like, okay. I'm reading the signs. If you're, first of all, I know that look. That is a queer boy who has no home. Mm. He was in the back eating, because they have to put the cholent in the back for all the, yeshiva boys who have no one home to come and eat. And he was this kid, he told his story before he even walked up. Mm. First of all, there's a Lubavitch uniform. In Israel, they say penguins, yes? But there's a uniform. There's the fedora, the payas are never showing. They're behind the ear. And a white shirt, no tie. Although the kids now, the Kabbalat kids now, they think they're like always stylish, right? So he walks up, and he's wearing the old school Hasidic outfit from like the 1700s. And he's got the white tights, and he has like the buckled shoes. And Miss Girl has on like the purple velvet. And I'm like, you are definitely mishpacha. You a sister. And his lips were a little redder. I mean, it was deep. And his face was powdered. And I was just like, he's religious, but like in drag. He has his own drag. And then the men's reaction was, less than kind. And I did my best to temper that. And I said, who is he? And one of the men says, some fagala. Oh, I said, oh, you mean a queer person, LGBTQ person, right? And yeah, that. I'm like, You ain't fit to disrespect him in my space. Just like I taught them that day that we didn't say colored anymore. They didn't know. I'm like, okay, they're like, Michael, it's so good that you're here. The Rebbe had a colored maid, and I'm like, African American or black will work just fine. So, it's important we understand that, Rabbi, that conversation is not surrender. Mm-hmm. Conversation is an invitation.
Yes.
To make these things happen. And I know people don't like these uncomfortable situations, but they have to take place for things to change. You can't just go on with these uncomfortable assumptions that if we just keep silent and don't talk about things that are hurt, that the healing will ever take place. Mm-hmm. Judaism taught me a lot about respecting women. And even though I started in, and still have a foot within Orthodoxy, I have to tell you, there was what I learned from growing up black. Of course you respect your mama and your grandmama and your auntie. A definite sort of like Southern gentleman thing. But it was within the framework of Judaism and Jewish life that I remember the first time Aviva Gottlieb, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I was so excited because I was like, the way she wrote Midrash. Zornberg, thanks, Zornberg. And the way she wrote about Midrash and the Bible, I was so excited. And someone said to me, you're reading a book by a woman on Torah? And I said, didn't Sarah teach the Torah? And didn't Leah teach the Torah? And Ruchel taught the Torah? And so on and so on and so forth. And you forget how important Rabbi Akiba, there was no Rabbi Akiba's wife, Rachel, didn't exist, there would be no Rabbi Akiba. Mm-hmm. Weren't there women rabbis in Central Asia, and Rashi's daughters learned Torah? Mm-hmm. And so I had a whole different perspective on, when I say respect for women as intellectual people. Respect for women in terms of learning about egalitarianism in Judaism. A whole different perspective. The black church is a very matriarchal institution, but it's not an institution where women actually have real power. So that's the difference there. And so for me, I guess people want to know, why are you Jewish? Well, if I'm going to be really honest with you, I've been Jewish for over half my life now. I grew up with rumors of Judaism in our roots, which turned to be, I guess, whether the DNA is true or not, doesn't really matter to me. No. Once, I'll clean this remark up. But once you face down 3 men and a needle like that, you're good. It doesn't really matter what a DNA test says. But for me, I think to be a Jew is an incredible present from Hashem, because we're really aggravating, annoying people. But we are still an aggravating, annoying, loving, gentle, dysfunctional family. You know? But so are Southerners. So are black folks. And queer people, you know, we a mess. Our motto, we a mess. So that's what I tell people, like, there is no such thing as the perfect human, the perfect Adam creature. We're all here just trying to figure this thing out. Yeah.
There's so much from what you just said that I want to pick up on, but I do want to share, because you sort of you're moving us away from food for a moment.
I totally did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. It's okay. I'm going to bring us back to food, but I do want to say, I do want to say, we talked a little bit about this before tonight, but I mean, our community has really been transformed, our broader Jewish community, by a growing awareness of Jews of color and the kind of the misunderstanding that Jewish means white. And even I read an op-ed in the New York Times today that said, and then a black person came over to me, and then a Jewish person came over, and I'm like, isn't that interesting how we create this yet another false binary in our world, like either you're black or you're Jewish. But our IKAR community has really been transformed by Marissa, and I saw Rachel earlier, and others here who are here tonight, who really insisted that you can't do racial justice work out in the world unless you build a racially just community. And it's been phenomenal for like growth for all of us. And look, our community is so beautiful, and we can feel the difference over the course of the last even decade. You shared with me 2 stories that I can't stop thinking about the parents on Shabbat morning that you greeted with Shabbat Shalom, and then about the kids with the picture. Would you mind just sharing this? Because I want to just give a sense of the experience that you.
So those 2 stories go like this. I had to, I dodged into Bethany before going to another service, and Bethany at that point in time had 900 students in a religious school. So it was the 3rd largest Reform religious school in America. This was before the Madoff situation. And so it was always, every single week, several B'nai Mitzvah. And I walk in, and I'm saying to everybody, Shabbat Shalom and Good Shabbos. And the majority of people said things to me like, same to you, or thanks. And I'm like, I'm your grandchild's teacher. I'm the reason why they're going up on that bima. I'm not the janitor. I'm not the custodian. I'm not some nice black guy. I am one of you. I am the reason why your grandchild even wants to come to Hebrew school. What you talking about? Thanks. Same to you. So the first time it happened to me, I was at a synagogue, conservative synagogue in Maryland. By the way, it's Maryland, it's not Maryland. And Old Bay goes in everything, and it's OU kosher. This woman, I can laugh now, I didn't laugh then. I walk in, and I'm really nervous, and I'm in the coat room, and this woman says to her husband, oh, look, the bar mitzvah boy's family must be very well off. They hired a coat man. And I was like, yes, ma'am. She gave me $20. I hit her fur coat. Before she rolled out, I rolled out with $20. I hope she found her coat. It was January. So that was the situation. But
The kids, in contrast.
don't worry about that. I've had many Yom Kippurs to atone. So the kids, in contrast, over time, they were like, I mean, at first they came at me with a lot of energy, like they were testing my mettle, and they were also trying to understand who I was, to be expected. But over time, I was teaching 1, 2, 3, 4 kids in a family. So at first, it's like, how'd you get here? But by the third or fourth kid, it's like, they'd walk in and give me a hug and say, oh, I got Mr. Twitty, I'm so happy. Because they knew they were going to have a good time with me. I was that, listen, I don't mean to out myself, but I was that gay teacher who came in on Sunday morning. I had to go out Saturday night. And the TV would come out, an American Tail would go in. I had sunglasses on. And the Siddur would be out, so that when our principal came by, I heard that door click and I go, she knew exactly what was going on. She never came for me though. But the kids, we had these meaningful discussions about, what does a Jew look like? What is a Jew? I really wanted to break this down with them. And when they had smartphones, I knew because they were always, on their table. And so eventually they were just like, hey, Mr. Twitty, can I take a picture with you? And I was wondering, why they want to take a picture with me? And I asked the kid, I said, why? He said, because the kids at school said, there are no such things as black Jews. You can't be black and Jewish. And they said, I want to take a picture with you because I want to show them that my teacher is Jewish. Listen to what's the phrase? My teacher is Jewish. Not my teacher's black and Jewish. My teacher's Jewish. My kids would say things in class like, when we were in Ethiopia, not when those people over there who say they're, you get me? We talked about phenotype, and it was a really deep conversation about why do we look the way we look? And I said to them, what does a Jew look like? And of course, you know what I heard? And one kid, they go, it looks like Bradley. Everybody laughs at Bradley. Ha ha, and Bradley blushes. He had dark hair and curly hair. But someone says, Bradley doesn't have a Jewish nose. And I said, do you all know where this comes from? So I pull out a book from my desk. It was a book that my late grandfather gave me about the Nazis, and it was a whole thing. I said, when you say these stereotypes, they're directly out of Goebbels' playbook. And they were shocked. I said, So who do you think teaches us to hate ourselves? If you're black, and you hear the phrase, who taught you to hate yourself? You know that's Malcolm X. And so that's why we use the toolbox of intersectionality to repair other parts of ourselves. And so we went through the whole thing. One young lady, she's brilliant red hair. She says, I'm tired of people assuming that I'm Irish. My people are from Lithuania and we're Jewish, all this. And another person goes, and I explain to them about, getting your nose done or getting your hair straightened. All these different things we've done to accommodate the majority culture. And I talked about how people would, say that black folks, we're not as smart, or we're not as beautiful, we're ugly. And one of my girls broke into tears. She says, you aren't ugly, you are black and beautiful. And that was, I've had many incidents like that where I felt like I was getting through. I had a kid named Elliot who was probably grown, has kids now. He was the tallest Jew you ever saw. He was a Jewish football player at that. But he loved hip-hop, and he was like, he and I were good buddies. I taught him, and then he became a madrich. I remember one day he was so upset, and I was like, what's going on with you? His parents were separating. And I said, you know something? Why don't you just wait here? And so I gave him, I had 2 sets of tefillin. And I said, have you ever put on tefillin before? And do you know where you come from? I said, your name is Belzer. You know where Belzer come from the Hasidic court of Belz. And it's going to make me cry, I'm sorry. So I gave him a tefillin, and I printed out the map of Belz and that part of Europe. I taught him how to put on tefillin. And I said, are you going to be all right? Because he was very close to both of his mom and dad. They were very strong. They just had to separate. And he says, I'll be all right, Miss Twitty, I'm from Bells. And that's the part they don't tell you on TV or the social media when they accuse people of being inauthentic or imposter Jews. They don't understand. They don't understand. They don't understand that there is an incredible legacy that is very complex, has a lot of twists and turns. I mean, yes, we've had our run-ins with racism in our community, both as Jews and as non-Jews people, non-Jew people who are black. But we've also had people like Lawrence Levine and Melville Herskovitz and Michal Sabel and Ira Berlin. These are all Ashkenazi American scholars who had great faith in the integrity of African American civilization and called it so. We're not even talking about people who fought for civil rights, or Franz Boas, who teaches Zora Neale Hurston. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, or when Yiddish poets were translating, black spirituals into Yiddish, or when Abe Mirapal writes Strange Fruit for Billie Holiday. You can go on all day long because these people saw a connection between their own struggle and that of black folks. And I try to teach my kids that because I wanted them to know and understand that there was a legacy on both sides that they were there to inherit. And we need to make those kind of lessons a big part of Jewish education, because right now, with the current matzav, it's being whittled away with a bunch of nonsense. I'm not saying that we haven't had complicated relations between the two communities. In my book, I'm very open about slavery and Judaism in early America. But I'm also open about the fact that a lot of people came out of that with both heritages, and that we have a complex, genome, we have a complex story as American Jews. When you talk about my great-great-grandfather, Elijah Mitchell, guess what? He was 15 years old when the surrender happened. He was living in Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia, which is where the surrender happened. It was also called Clover Hill, Virginia. But you know what the next day was, Rabbi? Erev Pesach. People don't realize that the real emancipation, the end of the Civil War, happened on Erev Pesach, 1865. See, that's how these things are so intertwined. And I realize people think that when I talk about the food, right, the food is like, how could it possibly be related to each other? Well, first of all, Jewish in the early Americas meant Sephardi. They went to places where the Portuguese and Spanish were and the Dutch were. And guess who else was there? Right? And so these cultures are already mixing and combining food. There were recipes that I took from a cookbook from the Jewish community of Curacao near South America. Half the recipes are African Atlantic. The other half are Sephardic. It's not a secret. Charleston was a bigger Jewish community than New York for over a century. Jewish community. So was Savannah. So was New Orleans. It's not a secret. Okay? Newport, Rhode Island. You had people who were both abolitionists and in the slave trade. New York, you had Jewish abolitionists. We need to know our history. So when people talk ish like Death Sand is talking about banning our history, what they're doing is they're banning the story of the marginalized people who would often band together for freedom. Every time the world is on the verge of an end, who comes to save it but blacks and Jews? Even in their fantasies, it's Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum. Even in their fantasies, it's Michelle Visage and RuPaul. If the world is on the verge of the day of judgment, trust and believe a black person and a Jewish person, maybe in Venn diagram form, will save the world. But you have to ask yourself the question, if they want us gone, how are we going to save the world? If we don't know our cohesive narrative, how are we going to save the world? We've talked about I'm not going to go deep in it, but something that you said to me, our conversation the day ago, got my mind going. And I've been thinking about how people have indicted the woke. I don't know what the hell woke means. And intersectionality. Well, feminism, Black Lives Matter, queer stuff, it's failed us. They forgot the number one intersectional partner that failed you, whiteness. It's been failing you for 2,000 years. So we'll buy articles about that. So we need to understand our relationship to this, all of us. And our relationship as Black folks, I've had to tell my fellow African Americans, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latin people, African immigrant folks, please don't fall for this thing where we can't have a conversation. Conversation is not surrender. I know you have issues, grievances, misunderstandings. Talk to me. And then I will introduce you to people who may or may not look like me, you can have other conversations with. But the number one goal here is, first and foremost, if you're in this country, and I am not a jingoist, but I do believe that the bottom line is we're human and we're American. We are lucky to be happily contaminated with each other. If you reject multiculturalism, you are forfeiting one of the greatest benefits of being an American. And therefore, why are you an American? If I cannot be all parts of myself here, integrated into one whole. What's on the cover of Coach's Soul? They can't see, but whatever. Look, there are multiple chalot. One is blue and white, one is black, red, and green, one is in the rainbow, and the other one is all of the bits poured together. Well, they're in a complex and complete braid, inseparable. If I cannot be my whole self, what good is America?
We're gonna turn to questions in a couple minutes, but we didn't get to any of my questions yet. I'm just gonna point that out. I did a lot of preparation for this conversation.
I'm so sorry.
Because one of the things I'm really curious about is culinary justice. You talk about culinary justice, but I'm gonna just make an observation first, which is I feel like the Jews in this room really needed to laugh tonight, and I just want to thank you for that, because it's been a rough 6 weeks. So thank you for making us laugh. And part of what you describe when you talk about culinary justice is Jewish joy and a response to Jewish trauma and a way of celebrating our beautiful beauty and diversity as a Jewish community. And I wonder if you can help us understand what you mean by that, because I'm feeling it, but I want to understand it from an intellectual perspective too.
Sure. So when I cook, it's always, well, not always, I kind of surrogate my food. There's Jewish potato salad and there's black potato salad. They ain't never gonna meet. Nah. I cook Afro-Ashkefardi at home. It's a little bit all of it. Afro, Ashke, Sephardi, Mizrahi.
Wow.
And beyond, right? The black and Jewish diasporas touch the entire planet. We're South Asian, we're Middle Eastern, we're West Central, Southern, East, and North African, we're European, we are even East Asian. The first non-Japanese samurai was a black man. We've been doing this. Where the largest community of black people outside of Africa is in Brazil. So this is a real thing. So mixing a Jewish community has been across the entire planet. So I have an access to the entire planet's worth of culinary resources. And culinary stuff tells stories. Foods tell stories. One of the books that inspired me was a book called A Drizzle of Honey, which is a very dark cookbook in the sense of the recipes are literally taken from the records of the Inquisition in Spain and Portugal, where Jews were frequently, oh, you made this, you were honoring the Shabbat, therefore you're not a converso anymore, you're an apostate. Oh, you put garlic, watch this, you put too much garlic in your food, you must be a Jew. Well, they were right. And so on. So when I began to teach about the Shoah to 7th graders, I used food to deflect from the fact that a lot of my 7th graders were going into the Shoah curriculum with this. First of all, they didn't even know how Jews got to Europe. Second of all, because we weren't teaching diaspora history. You must teach Jewish children the diasporic history of the Jews. You can't just be like, Israel, maybe America on a good day. Okay, whatever. Can't do that anymore. Or the Shoah, what kind of timeline is that? So I tell them about resistance. The resistance was young people. They were excited about that. I did a whole class on the Holocaust and the Hunger Games. They were like, we didn't even see the collection. I said, you didn't? I said, every apocalyptic or dystopian work is really the story of what happens to white folks when they live the lives of the rest of the planet. We don't need a Hunger Games. Teach us about Black history or queer history or the experience of women from day one. We already lived that, so we don't need a book to make us go, what if the world was turned upside down and there was all these awful things that happened to us? Ever heard the Middle Passage? So, there's that. And so for me, food was a way of teaching them. So I said, let's talk about recipes in food. And they would bring it. This is the last generation of kids to have grandparents who were in the Shoah. Now they're all gone. Now we're talking about maybe a handful left. So then it was, for me, I was starting to go back into my other side of my identity, my African-American side. And I was getting interested back into historic interpretation, starting to work with different institutions and museums. And that's what led to the Cooking Gene, but not just the Cooking Gene as a book, but the whole experience of being an interpreter. Because I was using food as a means to talk about those really problematic and hard parts of African-American history and culture, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latin history and culture. That food was both, I always say food is our flag. Your plate is your flag. It is a means of saying, this is who I am, these are my boundaries, these are my openings, my opportunities, and this tells you a story about who I am, where I come from. It's not just a means to an end or just satisfy me, make me impress you with your food. No, it's a way in which we express hope. Listen, so both communities, African American, American Jewish, do the exact same thing. You have a big meal, everybody sits down, and we talk about the food we had before and the food we had that's coming next. We never actually talk about the food that's on the table. We also eat things that inculcate our oppression. For example, the only possible reason to eat chitlins, hog intestines, so you eat northern folks who don't know, southern delicacy, and gefilte fish, Jewish medieval torture, it's a legal fallacy to get around. If someone said to you, Rabbi, I want to chug crane, I want to chug horseradish, you'd be like, you're Meshuggah. But if they say, I want to eat a ton of horseradish on top of gefilte fish, Baruch Hashem, Ms. Bashet, eat to your heart's content. If I said to you, here are these chitlins, you want to drink some hot sauce? No. But if I give you the chitlins, it makes it possible to drink the hot sauce by eating them. And then the same exact story happens, right? Go to the black household. Why we got to eat this? This is terrible. It's awful. Well, back in the plantation days, Jewish family. Why do we have to eat gefilte fish and pachad, all this nonsense? Well, when the Tsar was back in Russia, they never actually tell you why you should eat it. But I asked it to my mother one time, I said, Mom, why do we always have to eat our oppression? What's going on? Or my mother would go, my mother was the best cook in the world. And I would say, Mom, what's up? She's like, eat this. It's nasty. Why do I gotta eat it if it's nasty? There you go again, making us eat our oppression. Jewish family, try it, it's terrible. You know what it is? When we feed each other, it's about hope. When we talk about that next meal, that means we think we're going to have a next one. When we say, eat this is terrible, it's a way of teaching our children to distinguish between the bad times and the good times. It's not for no reason. It's a coded way of saying, this is bad, so that you will know the sweet and the good.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And that is a lesson only our mothers can teach.
Beautiful. Well, I would love if we could take maybe just two questions, if folks are...
No testimonies.
No testimonies, just questions. If people have questions, if not, I have another question, but I'm just going to see before we close. We have just a few minutes left. So if folks want to, I'm happy to open it up and hear what your thoughts are and what you're curious about. Okay. While we're finding our confidence. Yeah, we have someone? Okay, great. We do have, Elise is here coming around with the...
Cool.
Can you just introduce yourself before you speak, please? Okay, try and shout and I'll repeat.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much. I want to know, what is your favorite recipe from Kosher Soul?
Okay, so that would be...
Did everyone hear the question?
Favorite recipe from Kosher Soul.
Yeah.
That would be kosher soul rolls. Why? Because, number one, I want to shameless plug. This book is not just my baby. It is in the shadow of Kanye West till now. We need to amplify the voices of Jews of color, not just mine. Because the lack of perceived diversity is being weaponized against us right now.
Yeah.
To say we deserve what we get. And that makes me angry. Because despite all the complexity out there in the world, we still wrestle. Right now, we have a lot of people who have the voice of Yaakov, but they have the hands of Esav. You know that reference from Torah? Esav was called a wild ass of a man. But they talk with Yaakov's voice, but they're not doing Yaakov ways. You read into that what you want to read into. But the alternative to that is amplifying our voices. So there are more recipes in Kosher Soul than there were in Cooking Gene. I think there are like 60 in this book. And there are also menus. And I also direct you to Black, Israeli, Jewish American, Palestinian, and other culinary voices. Because why should I rewrite every recipe to make a cookbook? Only the ones I care about. And then here's some vegan chefs you need to know about. Here are some pescatarians. Here are some Arab. Here are some Jewish. Here's some Druze, whatever. You get me? So the soul rolls came about because, I was in the South many years ago, my home many years ago in North Carolina. I saw this thing on a menu called soul rolls. Now, everybody makes soul rolls now. They're all different. Basically, it's an egg roll or spring roll with dessert or savory, something in it, from the soul tradition. And so the main ingredient I saw on the menu was collard greens. Okay, cool. Duly noted. Then I was in Borough Park, and I went to this, the food of Hasidic New York is interesting. And if you're in somebody's house, it's excellent. If you're like in the little spots, I saw the sign on the window that said, pastrami egg rolls. Okay, talk to me. I hear you. So I go in, it's kind of bland, but it's still kind of good, because pastrami. And then I was just like, scallions, pastrami, sauteed collard greens. Shove it in a spring roll and deep fry it. Then feed it to Andrew Zimmern on TV. And that's what happened. He ate every single one of them. And he is just like, he's a really cool guy. But, even having conversations with him about, being Jewish. Anthony Bourdain was Jewish too. Yeah, Jewish mom. So we have a lot of people in the food world having these conversations about the fluidity of Jewish food. Someone asked at the program I went to on Martha's Vineyard, as Jews some Jews are not keeping kosher as much or exploring, what about bacon? And I said, bacon's already a Jewish food. It's been Jewish food for a long time. It's a Jewish food if you're eating it as in
shame.
In a shame or shame way, right? Or in a sense of defiant irony, or the fact that how many grew up with beef fry or turkey bacon? Now we have lamb bacon, yay! But I mean, the idea is somebody had to eat it first, and somebody was like, and so it's become a part of our lives. But that's the point. Like this false sense of puritanicalness is useless. I told this kid, I said, bacon has already affected the Jewish diet for quite some time. And it was one of when we did the book, 100 Most Jewish Foods, one of them was bacon.
I have a bacon story.
Tell me a bacon story.
Well, there's been some rewriting of our family history over the course of the years as my sister and brother and I all became more religious than we were when we first grew up. And the new narrative became that we never ate bacon growing up. But we all remember it. It was our favorite food. But we never ate bacon. We grew up really. My mother's in the room. I love you, Mama. And one day my brother was at work in this big corporate office, and he was walking through the lunchroom, and something was cooking in the microwave, and he said, "Oh my God, what is that? It's the smell of my childhood." And that's how we knew. That's how we knew what we ate when we were kids, and it has been since confirmed.
That's so wild. That's so wild.
Yeah, because the nose doesn't lie.
No. No.
Yeah. Well, I want to say we actually did cover a lot of the things I wanted to talk about. We talked about culinary justice, about identity cooking, and how food in some ways helps shape and perpetuate cultural identity and storytelling, about how the Jewish community can build more just and welcoming and inclusive communities for Jews of color, and for LGBTQ people. We didn't exactly talk about social media yet, but I don't think we're going to get to that tonight. But that is something very interesting, important, which I will just say I have found, especially in the last 6 weeks, that for my own mental health, stepping away from social media has been actually really important, and I think like a gift to the soul. And when we were speaking, you were talking about how absolutely essential social media is for Black people, for queer people, and for Jews.
And that's why the issues are the way they are.
And that's what part of what's so complicated about it, because our identities are so connected through this through this medium, and so it's very quite painful and complicated, and something for us to think about together. And maybe I'll catch Michael at lunch tomorrow, and you can talk about that. But we've also talked a little bit about ancestral journeys and the ways that that food and the conversation around food helps tap us back into our ancestral journey. And you even talked about community, and you even got to hope. So I feel like we've done pretty well tonight. And you made us laugh, and you made yourself cry. And I feel like the combination of those factors means it's been a successful conversation.
I will say that the humor part is that survival toolkit.
Yeah.
There's one thing that, if you think about who has made the better parts of American entertainment happen, it has definitely been the three groups, maybe four, that I belong to, master groups that I belong to. The South gave America its music. The combination of Blackness, queerness, Jewishness, that's the Joseph Papp Theater. That's the Broadway. We did that. But we've used our art and our humor to survive our pain. Yeah. But not just that. It's about us. It's about us having community with each other. It's about us being able to celebrate and be happy. The culinary justice piece, I want to say one quick word about that. In 2000, part of the reason why I got my kind of break was commenting on the Paula Deen situation. And I had invited her to conversation. And I was having a dinner in North Carolina on the grounds of Foreign Plantation to rescue these last two buildings that were formerly the cabins of the enslaved. And I also got my first African ancestry DNA results there. But culinary justice to me was this emerging idea of everybody was talking about Paula Deen using the N-word as opposed to why don't we hear about more black chefs? Why don't we hear about more black culinarians, black food writers, black sommeliers, and beyond that, right? And why is it that we don't talk about how the foods of ethnic America are somehow played around with, but the people aren't given their due credit? You know, they carry with them not only history and stories, but also an intellect from the culture and the humor of the culture, right? And so what I wanted people to do is understand that social justice leads us to food justice. Everybody has a right to healthy, sustainable food. That is not a choice. If you don't eat well and eat right, you can't think and learn. You can't get up the next day. You can't focus. You can't attend to survival in the right way.
Yes.
We're finding out about right now in a certain place in this world, and I am praying to God it ends. But the other part of that is culinary justice. In other words, someone got on my case one time and she was like, well, that seems kind of elitist. But I'm like, if all you have is rice and beans and somebody jacks your rice and beans, you do need some culinary justice. Because that heritage, that plebeian food of our ancestors, that other people might find to be a delicacy or delicious, if it's not properly managed, I'll give you the quickest example I can. Nashville, Tennessee with hot chicken. Hot chicken starts off on the other side of the tracks. But the minute it hits, another establishment, it's cool and trendy.
Right, right.
But before, the reason why that person on the side of the track didn't get credit was because of Jim Crow. So systemic racism affects how we eat, how we consume. So culinary justice is, for me, a descendant of me engaging, working in tzedakah gardens. It's me packing up food. I hope I can join you all on Sunday to do that. I didn't just come to LA to do gigs. I came to LA to help people. So everybody was like, don't go to Skid Row. I said, I want to go to Skid Row. I want to help people eat. I want to help people. I'm trying to hook up with Ron Finley and Garden and do other things, work with my friends who we have business work here. As one chef, young chef, Devin, who's come to Africa 4 times. And so I'm going to work with him while I'm here. I don't want to run away from our problems anymore. I want to run to them so we can do something about them. I'm aching right now, Rabbi. I feel so helpless. I feel like my thoughts and prayers just aren't enough anymore. I got to pray with my feet. And I want to thank you and IKAR for my first, listen, for the next 3.5 months, I'm an Angelino too. So this was a fantastic way, I just got here yesterday, a fantastic way to begin this journey. And I just can't tell you how grateful I am to all of you. This room is beautiful. And to my black folks audience, I see you. My melanated people, I see you. And I want you to know something. We're the strongest of the strong. And this community that you're in is so beautiful and so welcoming. And thank you for your work. It means the world to me to be able to come to a new town, new space, and completely feel at ease. Even today in the kosher market, I was so worried. I was like, oh, Lord, here it comes. But everybody was really nice. I was like, okay.
They're nice here.
But, you have done well. Your community has done well. And I wish you only blessings in the future.
First of all, you are always welcome here, and I hope we'll see you a lot in the next 3 months. I want to just close by saying this book is beautiful. If you haven't read it yet, if you haven't bought it yet, please do. And you talk about the vulnerability in the book of writing, because so much of you're sharing so much of yourself here and also in this conversation. And I know that vulnerability is terrifying, and I'm so glad that you stepped into the arena, because it is absolutely horrifying out there in the world. And you, in your conversation, in your writing, in your teaching, are creating new realities that we would rather step into than live in the world as it is. And so you're helping us all envision the world as it could be, this beautiful, multi-layered, complex identity, loving, delicious world. And I thank you for sharing that vision with us tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Shabbat shalom.
If folks can help us by bussing your tables, if there's still cups and plates, it would really help our team. Thank you so much. Shir hamalo b'shuv Adonai at shivat Zion ayinu kechol mimaz yimale tzchok binu shonenu rina az yomru v'agoyim igdil Adonai lasot imela igdil Adonai lasot imanu ayinu semechim shuv Adonai at shivitenu ka'afikim ha'negev azorim Bedima beharina yiksoru aloch elachu baso Yosem eshachazora Yavo verina No say alumotav Chaverai nevarach Yehi Shem Adonai merach me'etav yadalam Bershut Chaverai nevarach alinu shachanu mishalo Baruch alinu shachanu mishalo Tibo chayinu Baruch Baruch Shemo
I'll wait. Go ahead.